Hey guys, Chase here. Welcome to my follow-up video on my ASG CZ805 here. There's a few things I want to talk about after my retrospective on my first game day this last weekend. First thing is that the performance of the replica itself is phenomenal. I have no qualms or complaints about the actual performance of the replica as it exists, right? So I got this used. It is definitely used. You know, like she's been used before, and she's been rode hard, and that's okay. But it runs fine. I can tell if someone was in the internals, they left it kind of pristine. Like, it seemed like all of the shims and everything were factory. It seemed like it had factory grease in it, which, you know, for a replica, based on the serial number here, I can only assume that this is an early run, because it also had the very simple stock components. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about in this, because the main thing that I changed with this, I actually just, you know, I went in, I checked all the compression components, I put grease where is needed, so I used some more on the piston head, the cylinder head O-ring, and then where the nozzle meets where the nozzle interfaces with the cylinder head. I put some super lube in there just to get the compression up and make sure, get it back to where it should be. Add some viscosity and some lubrication in there, and it was shooting perfect. It was very, very consistent. I was really happy with it. I'm getting a few flyers here and there with, I think it's the suppressor, if I'm being real. My cat's in front of the camera, but scoop. But yeah, other than that, the replica itself was really good. Whoever owned this prior, you made a good choice with the barrel and bucking. I didn't have to dial in the hop for any superfluous reasons. I posted the first game on none of the subsequent games after that, because I was, quite frankly, not in the mood to record, and I was running my lever action, and I ran out of battery. So I didn't really get any more games with this, and I didn't really feel like charging it in the middle of the day. With that being said, as you guys can tell in the video, if you watched it, the Aster was not happy at some point. It was very angry with me when it did the 3 low beeps. And that was actually a running theme throughout the day. I had not had that happen to me when I was chronoing it. I had had it happen a few times prior, and I know what the issue was then, and I thought I solved it, but it needed a little bit extra. So for this portion, I actually have a visual aid here. So if I can get my thing to show up. So this motor grip here, I'm gonna hold it so it's in the light. This motor grip, and I'm also gonna zoom you in. Ooh. Okay, so the motor grip here, this back strap of the grip comes off and has your negative terminal here, or on one of these. I think it might be on this side. I can't. It truly doesn't matter for this part. But what does matter is that it's really shallow in here. Like the motor, this is for anyone that's familiar, right? Like, so this is where you adjust the motor height on the back of the pistol grip here, or the back of the motor grip. So that is pretty much, you've got like maybe 5 millimeters to the back of your motor axle here, right? Or your motor shaft. And so then you have a terminal right here, and it doesn't give you a lot of room to bend around. And King Arms was astutely aware of this when they manufactured this replica. Or at least I think they were. What I have here is what I found inside of the motor grip, or I should just say inside the whole thing. This is all the electrical guts. So here's my trigger components that are in a Ziploc bag. This was the original motor connector, or the battery connector here, the Tamiya. And here we have the motor, and these connectors are soldered on. So I don't know if I can get you an adequate view there, but these connectors, I hesitate to call them connectors because they literally just soldered the wire to the terminal, right? Because there's simply just not enough room to make that turn in there. Well, I really didn't want, I had a motor that I wanted to use, but I never want to keep a motor married to a replica, right? Like, I don't know, like maybe you want to put it in something else, maybe you get it, you never know. I've changed motors in a bunch of stuff all the time, right? Like just to see how it performs. Maybe that's just me, because obviously it didn't bother anyone else, unless someone else did this. And for all I know, someone else could have done this because they couldn't figure out how to adequately make this negative terminal make that bend. All right. So what I have here is a spade connector for an airsoft motor. It's very small. But crucially, this is the part that I'm showing you here that interfaces with the terminal. And then this side usually gets crimped by the wire, right? So you put the wire in there, and then you crimp it in, fasten it in place. Cool. You can't do that with this. There's not enough space. Like that space right there where the wire crimps is longer than this grip has, right? So like you got to think on here, it's kind of like that. And so if I hold it there, that mathematically, the salami lid ain't gonna fit, right? Like it's just not gonna fit there. And so that's not uncommon, right? That's not uncommon. What you'll do sometimes is you'll kind of bend where this, because this is just a single sheet of a very thin conductive metal that they stamp and roll into place, right? So you can kind of bend this over a little bit, but the thing is that it doesn't bend that way that it wants to bend. It wants to bend that way, which it does not want to do. So what I ended up having to do with one of these is I cut the top part off, and then I took a page out of my predecessor's book, and I soldered the wire directly onto here. And that actually solved, because the first time I was getting the beep, 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 that usually means it's a low voltage. The first time I was getting that was actually because I had used one of these and I had bent it over, and there was such a little bit of this that was actually still connecting that it was essentially reading that the battery wasn't able to put enough voltage because the motor was barely getting any power. It was literally going through two pieces of this thing that were sheared, that it happened to connect from, you know, they had work hardened and failed. So I lopped the top of this off and I soldered the wire directly onto this, put that on, and it fit, and my grip went on perfect. But the thing is that in this otherwise entirely plastic grip, there's a metal pin that goes through. And even on the best of days, if you trim this down and you solder the wire directly onto the spade connector, and then you run that, and then you bend it over, there's still a chance, a very good chance, might I add, that some part of an exposed bit of this will be touching this pin, the body pin that goes to the back strap. And so if that's the case, that was, I think, that was causing increased resistance, because it's on the negative anyway, and I'm connected to ground. So it was essentially using me as ground. And it was, I think it was causing the Aster to perceive a significant drop in voltage. I could be wrong. I could be off base. But to me, that seems like what was the case. So I took the one that was already on here, and I put some shrink wrap on there, or some heat shrink on there, to make sure that it wasn't coming in contact, and then tried to like move the terminal of the motor over a little bit without trying to break that as well, because that's also something you really don't want to do, is shear the terminal, which is very little. It has very little difference than this, right? Which it's literally just a little crimped piece of metal that's sticking up. And so if you bend that too much and it work hardens and it breaks off, buddy, you might as well just get a new motor. So that was the only issue I had with this. And I wanted to get technical on that because, you know, that's what I do here. But if you have a Bren, or if you have anything for that matter, and you're noticing that you're getting a low voltage on an Aster in a V3, you might want to check that. You might want to see if maybe part of your grip or whatever is causing a short circuit or a ground on your, or you know, a high resistance. I don't know. I failed electricity stuff. I'm not good with the angry pixies, but what I do know is that you don't want metal touching metal that's not supposed to be touched when it got the angry pixies going through it. And that's what I had. So as you could also see in that video, it was very temperamental, right? So it happened midway through, but it did not give any inclination that that was going to happen before, right? It didn't sound like I had a weak battery, because I didn't. It ran the rest of the day just fine, but that did happen in multiple other games. Unplug it, plug it back in, it resets whatever that, I think it's a ground fault, but whatever it is, it resets it, and it was chooching just fine until it was not. So I think that was the issue. Other thing I did that I noticed is that the sling points on this Bren are very, 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 very narrow, right? So if I can fold my stock here and show you on here, right? So, oop, baby's tail was in front of you. But right here, this is very narrow. This is a very, very narrow sling mount, and it's the same thing on the front, right? Like it's pretty narrow. And so I'm gonna zoom you back out here. Boop. Still getting used to my camera. So I had a 2-point sling with the hooks, the carabiner type deals. I had a single point sling with a carabiner type deal. One was a little bit narrower than the other. Neither really like to fit in here. So I just ordered some OD cotton web, 1-inch cotton web, and some 1-inch brass brackets or buckles off Amazon. And you know, I got my trad wife shit on, and I sewed this together so it's not going to come loose or it's not going to come out, and I can adjust this. And I don't know, it's kind of a vibe, you know, old school style cotton webbing sling. So I thought that was really cool. I printed a part that at this point I'm fairly certain is just going to have to be a somewhat expendable part, but the hop up is not accessible unless you pull the charging handle back. And so I printed a little piece that sits right in here. So it's literally just it's a square with a rounded side with a radius that's just a little bit interior to this radius. And it sits right about there. And it uses the tension of the charging handle to hold it in place. But you know, it'll maybe rock out during a game or whatever, but it just holds it right there, and it takes about 5 minutes to print, and that includes warming up the printer. But then it holds it right about there, which is plenty to access your hop up. And that way, accessing your hop up on the field or in a game is not a two-handed operation. Yeah, you have the exposed hop up a little bit, but like, I mean, let's be real, people. Like, how many times are you adjusting? Like, let's say, I don't even keep the little metal fake bolt in the airsoft gun usually, because even when you have to, if it's on an M4, right, and let's say you pull the charging handle back, and you know, let's say you're lucky and it has a bolt release that actually has somewhat of a likened to realistic functionality where it holds it back just enough to where you can adjust your hop up and then click it back. Those things suck, right? Like, I take it out. I don't want it there. Like, sure, you're showing me my whatever, right? But who cares? Who cares? So if that's where it is, and on this side, when you put that piece in, you're really none the wiser. Like, people, you wouldn't recognize it. Other than that, like, she's a beaut. She's a performer. It's really nice. One thing that I wasn't really thrilled about was, I think the way that my thumb rests, you can see it in the gameplay. I flicked it onto safe. I don't even really know how I did that. Maybe it was just me being stupid. Like, I'm not gonna rule that out. But because this is my first like 45 degree, you know, usually they're 90 degrees, but like the entire sweep of this thing is barely 90 degrees. I don't even think it's a full 90 for the full sweep. So maybe I just need to get, it's a skill issue, and I need to get better with such a confined select fire group, or fire select group, I should say. I don't know. But yeah, my ramblings and musings after my first game day with the bread. I think I'm going to try another muzzle device. I like this one. It is quieter, but maybe I just need to try something else. But the floaters weren't that bad. It was actually really good as far as I'm concerned, as far as the flyers would go. But I don't know. We'll see. That's what we're about here. You know, test your hypothesis. Challenge your predictions, right? So that's what we'll do. We'll do some science. We'll see what's going to be the best. But I'm really happy. It feels good to have a primary that's doesn't have an MED, but still has range. So yeah, if you're excited to see what I do with this, what sort of monstrosities we're able to cook up here, subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys later.